All right, so Leah, I heard that in school you're studying the Three-Fifths Compromise.
Yep.
And I have no clue what that is. Can you give me the rundown?
Naturally. Well, the Three-Fifths Compromise was a clause in the Constitution when the Founding Fathers were framing the Constitution after the Revolution. And basically it said that when counting population in each state, because that determines how many representatives get sent for the House of Representatives, if it's a slave state, you count a slave as 3/5 of a person.
Mm.
So when counting population, every free person is one, and then every slave is 3/5 of a person.
Wow.
Yeah. Basically, the effect of it was that for slaves, certainly it was not an advancement. They weren't counted as, they were still considered property. They weren't counted as like a real person. Only 3/5 of a person counting population. However, in terms of Congress, because slave states, they did add a number to the population. So slave states usually had a larger number of representatives go to Congress, which meant that if there was ever legislation being passed that was anti-slavery, usually it did not get passed. Because all the slave states, like the representatives for those states, didn't want slavery to be abolished. They wanted it to continue because it was good for their economy.
All right, so the representatives from northern states didn't want them counted at all, probably. And the southern politicians did. Right. And so they compromised and said we'll be 3/5.
Right. So basically it was not great for slavery because the representatives from the slave states wanted slavery to continue. That was great for their economy. It was making them all this money. So the added population, even though it was still 3/5, it was still an added number to the population, which gave them more representatives.
And so when was this?
This was just after the Revolution, when they were framing the Constitution. And actually, this was the only mention of slavery that the Constitution had. They didn't mention it a lot. It was kind of a touchy subject, and it didn't get mentioned until many years later. So that was the only mention of slavery in the entire Constitution.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so there you have it.
I never knew that.
Three-Fifths Compromise.
Thank you for enlightening me.
No problem.